With its 140-odd rivers and streams, Yorkshire seems awash with water. There's water everywhere, but still at times not enough to drink. During last summer's drought, Huddersfield in West Yorkshire was the worst hit town in the worst hit county. And it's still the most vulnerable if there's another shortage this year. Water is now a precious commodity. Ricky Snow and his family have faced restrictions on using water for months.
I got a hose pipe for my wedding present last year. It's brand new, I've never been able to use it. You're not allowed to wash the car. We use water from the bath to water the plants.
His allotment should have provided vegetables for the family last year, but they died through lack of water. He's not going to stock it this year.
I used to enjoy doing it. The kids used to enjoy it because I used to pickle onions and, you know, potatoes and everything. People should be able to just use water when they want. The people, that's what they pay for. The amount of taxes and everything that we pay for the service. So I think we should have it when we want to use it, not when we're told to use it.
But he may not have a choice. The prospect of climate change brings the threat of more droughts in future and the need to conserve water supplies. Here in Yorkshire, they've suffered more than most, and if the reservoir levels stay this low, they could be heading for another drought this summer. Now more than ever, the privatised water companies are having to juggle the competing interests of their shareholders, their customers, and the environment. The question is, should they invest more, charge more, or raid the rivers for water?
Customers have got to grapple with what the bottom line is. If customers want what I believe they want, which is a secure supply of water, that requires a standard that needs to be set given all the issues around like climate change. That also carries a cost.
Part of this cost will be borne by the rivers. A long-term solution to Yorkshire's water shortage would be to pipe in supplies from Northumberland. But in the short term, the cheapest option is to get drought orders to take water from local rivers or reduce flows into them from reservoirs.
This reservoir takes years to fill, so they've used up several years to make the water.
At this drought hearing, the company is applying to restrict water flowing into the River Don. The two camps are out in force, environmentalists and Yorkshire Water, plotting their strategy.
Every litre of water you take from the environment affects the watercourses, affects the streams. It dries up riverbeds, it means that the fish don't spawn, it means the insects on which the fish feed on die out, it means the otters don't have places to hunt.
Stuart Crofts fishes the River Don, and he's worried about how the drought order will affect it.
20 years ago, the river just here was basically an open sewer. There was very little fish life in it, if any at all. And in the last 20 years, our association took over the river and transformed it.
Some stretches of the river are still polluted. An old mine shaft spews out effluent. Fishermen worry any reduction in flow will exacerbate its effects, but they face stark choices.
We originally put an objection into this drought order. Unfortunately, we've had to withdraw that objection, basically because if we'd have carried on fighting it and we'd have actually won, the reservoir would have run out of water sometime in mid-July, so we'd end up literally with a dry river rather than a drastically reduced river.
During last year's drought, extra water from rivers was not enough. Supplies had to be tankered in at a cost of £47 million. Standpipes were on standby, and bottled water had to be shipped in. There are still problems. An inquiry to report later this week is expected to be highly critical of Yorkshire's performance and to conclude there needs to be a wider debate.
Building new reservoirs isn't necessarily going to be necessary or even the best way for managing resources in the future. Increasingly over the recent years, attention is focused more on demand management, where through things such as metering and restrictions on the use of hose pipes and so on, the demand for water is managed to keep it within the amount that can be supplied, rather than continually trying to supply more and more water.
Yorkshire Water has brought in a new man at the top to win back customers' confidence and to persuade them to value water.
I've got to make sure that we put in place a system of water supply that fixes that loss of confidence by an assurance that you can get water out the tap for all essential uses when it's necessary. What we have to also look at is water is an extremely valuable resource. We have to conserve it, and we have to be sensible in the way we use it.
Meanwhile, Yorkshire Water is trying to make up for lost time. They've announced total investment of £170 million this year, and tackling leaks has been given top priority.
Yep.
Work's going on round the clock to plug them.
Just to go into Bing's Lane.
32% of Yorkshire's water is now lost through leakage, one of the highest rates in the country. Plans to contract out this work have been dropped, and instead the number of leak detectives has been increased to 100. It's midnight and Danny and Mike have just started their shift. Tonight they're checking reports of a leak in a residential road near Huddersfield.
That's not a bad thing.
Good sound. Yeah, let's have a listen.
So why'd you come out at night?
Because it's quieter, less people about, less people using water, and less traffic. Just the occasional owl that you can hear.
How high a priority is leak detection at the moment?
Extremely high.
Yorkshire Water held back £19 million from a planned repairs programme last year, boosting profits to £142 million before tax. Customers suspect that shareholders and profits come first. Which is the first priority?
Customers.
In what respect?
In that we have to maintain the water supply and confidence and loyalty of our customers, because last year has shown without it, then shareholders begin clearly to get nervous. So if you're going to generate long-term shareholder return, make sure you've got the money to invest in the infrastructure. You've got to have the confidence and support of your customers.
Consumers have yet to be won over, but others have been brought on board. Having accepted the need for drought orders, the Environment Agency sends out electro-fishing crews to monitor their effects. Looking for signs of damage from pollution, they generate electricity to stun and catch the fish.
Got one.
Forced to choose, even the environmentalists recognise people come before fish.
There's a balance that has to be struck between a risk of shortages, which means for the public hosepipe bans, possibly in the extreme standpipes or rotor cuts, as against developing new resources, building new reservoirs, which will hit the environment and cause customers increased bills. In addition, the other alternative is for the public to cut down their use of water. At some point, the debate has to take place and some suitable balance has to be found.